I would like to now give you an update on the status of our field level communications initiative and talk also a little bit about the further roadmap. So first of all, starting with a slide that I presented last November at the SBS show in Nuremberg, because we celebrated 4 years FLC initiative. As we were establishing the FLC in November 2018, you see here the picture taken from the remarkable press conference, having commitments from all the big players in automation supporting this initiative, bringing OPC UA to the field level. So you see the logos of those companies that are today member in our steering committee. This steering committee is defining the requirements and the use cases and also defining the roadmap according to which we are developing our specifications. Before I forget, the happy birthday is today also for a special person here in the room. So let's say happy birthday to Mike. And
happy birthday!
And we're looking forward to the big party this evening that you organized for us. All right, so maybe a quick introduction what field level means and what aspects we have to consider when looking at the solution approach. When we want to bring OPC UA to the field level, we have to look into different aspects and use cases. And you see in this yellow bubble some of the terms we are dealing with. So it's about functional safety, it's about adding determinism, it's about looking into all the different device types for the different applications in factory as well as in process industry. So it's about motion control, remote IOs, field instruments, and certainly other devices as well. And because this overall is somehow a quite complex task, also because we have all these field buses today established, we divided the work into 2 parts. So we said, first, let's focus on the controller-to-controller use case, which is listed here with the number 5. And then in a second step, bring these concepts down to the real field level, to all the field devices for the controller-to-device, also including device-to-device. And you have heard about the UAFX. So FX standing for field exchange. This is, let's say, the term we are using for the extensions we do for the OPC UA framework. But it is OPC UA, it's nothing new. We are just adding things to the OPC UA framework. A big milestone we reached November last year. So after 4 years, we were really glad and also proud finally to release our first specifications. So 4 years seems to be a long time, but you have to consider we have all the big automation players together in working groups. They, for the first time, work together with each other. So maybe we lost at least the first year for getting the same language, getting understanding each other and taking also out some of the non-technical side effects when you bring such companies together. And we had COVID suddenly. So the 4 years are actually, I think, not too bad. Even we wanted to do this faster. So we are really proud to have these specs out. You see it's 4 parts. You see the cover pages with the numbers 80, 81, 82, 84. As Don mentioned with the OPAS standards yesterday, these are now robust specifications. So they have undergone different iterations internally. We did extensive prototyping to really make sure what we are publishing can be also used for conformance testing. So this is what we are currently preparing. I put here Q3 this year, so we expect 6 to 9 months after the spec is out also to have conformance testing in place. So the good thing is vendors can now create their commercial offers, and we have end users starting pilot projects with first prototypes. Another important element, I mentioned functional safety at the beginning, is a specification that was recently published already as, let's say, the third release. Work started even before we started with our FLC initiative. This is why this is already has been published quite early. The first release was July 2020 already. And this is supporting client server. It's also supporting pub/sub. And we just did a maintenance update with the latest release in November 2022. To give you a little background why safety is so important, with OPC UA safety, we are adding a safety layer on top of OPC UA to enable fail-safe applications running OPC UA. So this is an additional layer detecting any possible errors that can occur. And we are able to support even applications up to safety integrity level 4. The really unique characteristic of OPC UA safety that it can run, as Stefan highlighted also, over different transport protocols and any kind of physical layer. It can be tunneled through any transport you can think of. And this is so different than the safety protocols we have today in the field, because they are typically bound to a dedicated field bus. With OPC UA safety, we really have a universal solution out, which is getting also big support from all the manufacturers. You see here some activities related to the spec. So it's not only that we have the spec out, we are also having started 2 development projects, one to implement a safety test tool that we can use for conformance testing and companies can use for in-house testing. And in addition, the development of a safety stack, which can be used by companies also in their commercial offers. So far, 32 companies, let's say, paying and contributing to this development. And this will certainly accelerate the adoption of OPC UA safety. Okay, I also have one photo of our demo that is outside, maybe already dismantled, I'm not sure. Hopefully you had the chance to look at this. This is actually a demo, the first demo we did on UAFX multi-vendor back in November 2021. And you see here overall 17 controllers, actually 16 in hardware, 1 in software, all connected to a common network infrastructure, all connected to a common dashboard. And we are using, on the one hand side, client server to do diagnosis monitoring, to read out asset information. But the significant point here is that we are using this demo also to highlight the new use cases for UAFX, and this is controller to controller. And I have here one slide to explain a little bit the use case. We took the application scenario of a bottling line. You see here consisting of 4 elements, so a washer, a filler, a capper, and a labeler. And the controllers are, so to say, assigned to these tasks in this production line. And on the left-hand side, you see the 2 connection managers. So they are, so to say, orchestrating all the connections between these controllers. And by using these connection managers, you then can set up flexible connections between these controllers using publish subscribe. So it's real-time capable. You can exchange safety critical data, and this all cyclic. And as I said, this is the basis also for our control to device extensions we are working on. This brings me to what is coming up, what is the further roadmap. And you see here in the green in the green frame, now the use cases we are now intensively working on. So we have done the spec on the controller to controller. Certainly we will do maintenance on that, but now the new work is now related to C2D, what we name this, and including D2D. We have had a kickoff, I saw the slide already before, in July last year. Also handing over the requirements to our technical teams. We put the working group structure in place. We will actually launch 2 new working groups just maybe 2-3 months from now, working on instrumentation and working on I/O. And you see the different work items listed here. Very important is the parameterization. So controllers parameterizing the field devices, providing also access to device tools and engineering tools. We will work on extended or enhanced diagnosis, and then adding all the information models and device behaviors for motion devices, I/O devices, field instruments. So this is now the task for the next few years. So I'm always asked how long it will take. So this is a difficult question, but my message is typically in 2 years we have a spec out, and some complain and some say we are much faster than this. So the 2 years maybe are not too bad from an estimation. All right, with that, I think I'm at the end of my part, and I hand back to
me.
You, Stefan.
Thank you, Peter. And again, congrats from my side. It's absolutely a great job what you did, because, well, bringing that automation giants to one table, to one room, and agree on something is definitely not that easy. So congrats again. I'm not moderating in the complete next part, but I want to just make one announcement here about our strategy extension, and this is in 2 directions. The OPC Foundation, driven by member activities, will grow on the one hand from information models, what we have in the area of manufacturing and process automation, more and more into the energy-related topics. This is a principal announcement here, and Mike will dive into more details in a second. The other direction is that we are more and more addressing also IT-related topics, because a lot of people outside on the market believe OPCA is just the last mile to a physical asset which I can touch, and it's the last protocol mile, which I hope I gave some information. It's not a protocol, and we are scaling to cloud already. But we also learned that, hey, there's even much more coming, not only moving data to the cloud. If you look, if you have looked and followed, there are multiple more concepts, for example, on data spaces. Also, I had to learn on what is a data space. I don't have, by the way, I don't have a specific slide on that, but a data space is something where you share data with others, and you are still the owner of the data. Anytime you can recall the data, and then the data are no longer available for others. They can't make a copy of that. And this is a concept which is super interesting. And for us, we were surprised and we were honored that meanwhile 2 companies in the world have already made an OPCA data connector to these data spaces. One is maybe coming from the research area, the Fraunhofer Institute, Germany, okay. But the other one was the Japanese telecommunication company, NTT. And I was participating at Data Space Congress end last year, and you can maybe think about my surprise going through the exhibition where I'm not really deep familiar with, and I'm opening a brochure from NTT and seeing, oh, we are trusting on OPCA as our data connector. I said, wow, cool. So we should precisely look at this and support companies share more information to help them. The asset administration shell concept is a little bit different, and honestly, I truly believe that all the big big enterprise companies have enough resources to send their experts in all these different initiatives. But I also believe that small and medium-sized companies are a little bit lost on all these new concepts and also changing concepts. So the asset administration shell is not a digital twin. It's a different concept. It is to collect data on the complete life cycle of a product. When it's designed, the cut paintings and so on, the drawings, and save that. So you can more think about a zip file where you put in different information like a Word document and a PowerPoint and something else, and you zip it and you provide it to somebody. And this asset administration shell has also a REST API to get data out and in. That's all fine. But the big question is also, how do you connect or collect data from the operational product phase, where mainly OPCA is dominant, into that asset administration shell. And right now, the OPC Foundation is working with other associations on a white paper on the big picture interoperability to exactly navigate people through this, let's say, jungle of new up-bubbling initiatives and standards and so on. So we are carefully monitoring this. The metaverse is also something where you might think about, okay, what is this now? But here also we have started a new initiative, and it is, okay now. And this is something where I'm not reading it line by line, but remember that the OPC Foundation has a board of directors with a good mix of OT and IT companies, and this has been a proposal by our IT companies. Hey, this is an upcoming topic. We should be prepared in time. And so we are today just making a teaser that we have started this as an internal working group. And you see here that the board members, and I see that company Schneider is missing, so please add that. I have to fix that text. Is also part of this. Right now, board companies are talking about the focus, what is the direction, they're exchanging information about their understanding of the metaverse. You have listened here to a presentation from company Siemens on this. And so we have an active working group already. Once we are more clear about our direction and so on, we will open the group and make an international call for participation. I like to make a teaser that it definitely makes sense to join the OPC Foundation booth at the Hanover Trade Show, because you will see a demo there, right? With this, I like to hand over to Mike to navigate through the rest of the information. I did not want to mention all the other collaboration partners. I do not want to steal your content, but this is obviously upcoming.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So before I go back to the next part, let me go back to this slide just for a minute, because I will be speaking in a moment about the carbon capture initiative, but there is an announcement, and I'm going to give the floor to Dan Isaacs from the Digital Twin Consortium to make this announcement about the MOU between the OPC Foundation and the DTC. So let me just quickly jump into this. We have several initiatives that we announced on Monday at the press conference. So those of you who are representing the press, you can go to sleep for about 2 seconds. Just kidding. This is actually one of the things we talked about. So you'll see here that the OPC Foundation, CESMII, which is the Smart Manufacturing Initiative here in the US, and the VDMA, which is the European Mechanical Engineering Association. We have representation here this week from them as well. We all agreed on a what's called a MOCA. Now, forgive me, you're going to hear guys like Stefan and myself and anybody that's working for the OPC Foundation use the term MOCA or BOCA quite liberally. Let me just give you a quick hitchhiker's guide to what that means. MOCA stands for Multi-Organizational Collaboration Agreement. BOCA would be the bilateral organizational collaboration agreement. MOCA, because we've got multi-companies here, this was signed by these groups in order to help with solar PV operations and maintenance. This then has a deliverable. So a charter is created, the charter states what the objective is, the deliverable will become an OPC UA companion specification. And that's what this charter is all about. This is all part of a larger initiative that the OPC Foundation has been engaged in for a while. Some of you may recall last year there was an initiative kicked off about the energy consumption management, and that was another charter that was put forward. You're going to see additional announcements around this in the future, but this particular one deals with solar and photovoltaic. There was one announced on laser systems. This one was between the OPC Foundation and VDMA, and this deals with the laser systems consisting of companies that are looking at the communication of laser systems from high-level systems and devices in their respective processes. The last one that I'm going to announce is the carbon capture and storage. This one is, again, between OPC, CESMII, and VDMA. This one particularly was founded by Predictor, Equinor, Beckhoff, and Microsoft. So these were the founding members. Naturally, that started to capture attention because they have something that they're working on. And so as a result, they're like, why don't we just turn this into a companion spec so that it lives on in perpetuity? This is good. So their deliverables, they're looking at everything from capture equipment, compression, storage, loading and unloading. This is the jetties in particular, transport, injection, and metering. Now there is something that's a bit of a note here. In this particular carbon capture and storage MOCA, or this companion specification, there is an active project that's underway. It's called Northern Lights, and this is a joint venture between Shell, Equinor, and who's the third one? Total. These three companies are working on Northern Lights together, and so they're going to work specifically focusing on storage plants for liquefied carbon. That's not to say that these other topics are not front and center in their minds, it's just that they're going to work on these ones first. All right, allow me to turn the floor over now to Mr. J.Dyck. He is the CEO of CESMII. CESMII stands for Clean Energy Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute, and John's going to take it from here. When John's finished, I'll have him turn the floor to Dan, and then as soon as Dan's completed, we'll go into a Q&A session.
Well, good. I thought it might be me between you and a beverage, so I'll hand that privilege
Dan.
off to Dan. Yeah. Well, so I'm going to, for better or for worse, I'm going to change the sort of level of the conversation briefly to sort of abstract us to about 50,000 feet for a moment, just to talk about how, from our perspective as the Smart Manufacturing Institute, excuse me, we view the importance, the vital importance of the work that the OPC Foundation is doing around interoperability, and how CESMII is, as a federally funded institute here in the US, is trying to bring that, leverage those important ideas to bring interoperability to the masses. So we're kind of a unicorn in that we're industry experts that have been funded by the federal government to accelerate the democratization of smart manufacturing. We've received $140 million in funds. We deploy that by convening an ecosystem. So we're a consortia, manufacturers, systems integrators, technology providers, machine builders, and the knowledge or academic ecosystem to think important thoughts about how we can accelerate the adoption at scale of smart manufacturing in this country, to create a more competitive manufacturing environment, and then to invest in those things, to actually create, develop, advance or accelerate the investment in vital technologies and knowledge that we think will serve our mandate to cut the cost and complexity of smart manufacturing deployments in half over 5 years. And so from our perspective, it's in the analysis that we've done with the sort of smart people that we are convening to address these vital issues, we've recognized that there's been 30 or 40 years of major manufacturing systems innovation in this country and around the world. That, in fact, innovation has been the hallmark of manufacturing of manufacturing here in the U.S. And so, it's from our perspective, these great, virtually every technology provider and consulting organization has great sort of frameworks through which they can communicate the value of these types of things, and of course that's important. But the reality is we've been doing this for 40 years. There's really nothing new in that McKinsey framework for value creation for the fourth industrial revolution that we haven't been doing for 40 years, literally. That 40 years, the past 40 years of innovation looks like this. Every manufacturer I've ever talked to has some version of this. This is an actual manufacturing organization that you would all recognize. This is their sanctioned manufacturing IT systems landscape. Every one of these boxes is deployed in about 68 plants. Each one has its own information model, its own user experience, its own set of costs to sustain. And yet at the end of every shift, they spend 40 people hours moving data from these disparate systems into Tableau, into Power BI, into some other reporting environment to do a shift handoff meeting for production, for maintenance, and for quality. This is, despite 12 years of Industry 4.0, we're still propagating this cost and complexity. This is what we call unbridled innovation, where every one of these boxes is its own stovepipe architecture, its own data silo, represents vendor lock-in, and we're still propagating this complexity today. This is what has to go away as we think about the future. So in our work together with our 170 some members across this ecosystem, we did the work to define a smart manufacturing specification that sort of rips apart the traditional monolithic application environment. We've created a specification at each one of those layers and put that back into the marketplace as an open specification for anyone to leverage and develop against. But we've also been investing in the technologies to exemplify what this actually looks like. And so we talked about the cloud library that we worked on together with the OPC Foundation in a great initiative. You see the manufacturing information model repository. Well, that has manifested itself as a smart manufacturing marketplace at marketplace.CESMII.net. The information models that you see there that define every layer and the key characteristics of this smart manufacturing stack, those are the information models that the OPC Foundation and VDMA and CESMII have been investing in and are trying to bring to life through our investments. And that sort of three-tiered box that you see on the left-hand side, we have gone to the marketplace to assemble what we believe the best-in-class example or instance of these capabilities, and we're bringing these to the marketplace through our funding here at CESMII. And of course, our goal is to then have the entire ecosystem building applications against an open interface instead of using these information models that we're defining here, instead of against the stovepipe architecture, hardwired sort of data models that these historic legacy applications are leveraging today. So from our perspective, actually, let me just go back briefly. This is an example of what the OPC Foundation and VDMA and these great organizations are leveraging, are building to build essentially de facto standard information models as base types, as class definitions for a modern open interface to develop against. And these are the pieces that we are excited to bring to life through our efforts here. So as you just heard from both Stefan and Mike Clark, we're excited to engage in and invest in these important interoperability-centric initiatives. From our standpoint, we want to enable these types of consensus-driven, essentially standards-based initiatives to build great, robust, powerful information models that can be consumed and instantiated and composed by virtually any manufacturer, small, medium, and large, and be used as a templatized, reproducible interface against which you can develop. And so as part of that, we were honored to be invited to co-lead together with the OPC Foundation and VDMA these important initiatives that clearly align around our core objectives around sustainable manufacturing, right? What we're talking about here in terms of the democratization of smart manufacturing, in many ways, is in perfect alignment with sustainable manufacturing. We in fact collectively need to be able to do a better job articulating the value that we produce, right? When we create a more robust and resilient supply chain, when we drive operational efficiency, when we reduce waste or create a more reliable yield for manufacture, those are direct impacts on your company's ESG reporting and metrics that you report to your organization. And so we have to collectively, I think, this is a bit of an aside, get better at aligning the outcomes that we strive for and execute towards and work on every day to our company's sustainable and ESG initiatives broadly. So this is I guess the Smart Manufacturing Institute's lens on how we get this ecosystem to advance in this area, in this direction. We've got the sort of $140 million that CESMII is bringing to bear on getting this flywheel turning. The subject matter experts that we're able to invite into this ecosystem to take what they know about a paper converting machine, about a labeler, a cartoner, a furnace, a crack tower, a packaging line, and turn that subject matter expertise into a reusable, portable information model, and bring that to the marketplace through our smart manufacturing marketplace, the OPC Foundation, VDMA, MT Connect on the machine tool side. And then we've funded quite a number. We've funded a short list, but a growing list of important organizations that have great information modeling capabilities with a bidirectional translation that allows me in a PTC thing template environment to carve out a great information model for a process or an asset, carve it out and put it into the marketplace, or to go directly to the marketplace, grab that paper converting machine information model and ingest it inside PTC. And of course, the interoperability that, first of all, you're saving the work, you're building against a standards-based model, and now you're enabling the discoverability of that information model at the application level and can do much, much more, I think, compelling, interoperable-centric work from that point. So that's what we're investing in, to take these really important ideas from the OPC Foundation, the information models, the interoperability that we're all aiming for, and kind of bring that to life. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. First, I want to start off. My name is Dan Isaacs. I'm a CTO for the Digital Twin Consortium, but I'm also the Chief Strategic Officer for our object management group. And I am between you and the drink, so I will keep this brief. Really, we've heard a lot of different presentations over these last couple of days around sustainability, interoperability, digital twin, and what really is it? And one of the first things we did as a consortium is really identified what are those foundational elements in terms of a digital twin. And if you see here, you can see really it's a virtualization of a physical entity and or process. Think about supply chain management, operational resiliency, these types of things. But the key element coming back, and I think this again explains where we are now in terms of what we're looking at for being able to synchronize the data so that you have, at a given frequency, often called the twinning rate, so that you have an understanding in terms of what the fidelity, what the accuracy and precision is to ensure you have that between your physical entity or process with that virtualization. Those are foundational elements of a digital twin. Digital twin is a twin of something. If you just have a simulation model, that's a simulation model with an intent to twin. Or as Dr. Greaves says, the founder or the father of, he doesn't like me calling him the grandfather, of digital twin and the concept is really that fact that you have this virtualization, you have your simulation model. If you don't have your physical, that's a design or a digital twin prototype with the intent to twin. So going at that, you can see here, we have, this is actual live telemetry data captured at that time. So this is a wind farm based in Europe. And you can see the telemetry data that's captured. You can see the virtualization. You can see the synchronization. But then you also have the ability now to operate from that understanding, from the analytics that you get from that data, the actionable insight, to now operate and condition on the actual physical. So you really have a closed loop here. That digital twin is providing you a crystal ball in terms of being able to predict based on historical data, based on the situational awareness, the event intelligence happening in quote unquote real time, to then be able to, with the highest level of confidence, because of this holistic view, being able to determine and predict and forecast that optimal outcome. So, as I said, we're Digital Twin Consortium is part of the OMG, the Object Management Umbrella. Started about 35 years ago as a standards organization and built out things like CESMII, UML, these different types of, and continues to build out through its 200 plus membership. Under that umbrella, realized it was very efficient and effective at building consortia. There are 7 consortia now under this OMG umbrella. And if you look at these elements, you can see how there is a unifying theme here. That unifying theme really is around sustainable digital transformation. You can see from where you're capturing the data from the sensors through industry IoT and all the elements associated with that, to then be able to visualize that, and that's through the Augmented Reality Enterprise Alliance, to then bridge that virtualization to the physical through the Digital Twin Consortium. Other areas, other consortia there, in terms of one of the most recent, is around responsible compute. How do you do that in a sustainable and responsible way? That brings in the ESG aspects, it brings in circular economy, those different areas. So what are we really focused on? And you've heard it today, it's the interoperability. How do we ensure the flow of that data through these system of systems, through these complex areas? You've seen examples of that throughout these last couple of days. And we're not just about introducing and bringing out that awareness, but we're really about accelerating the adoption and demonstrating that through real-world applications and values. We have 24 different liaisons, of which CESMII is one of those, of which OPC Foundation, as what we're here today to announce, is Digital Twin Consortium is now forming officially a liaison with the OPC Foundation. We have a global membership. We have over 30 countries represented. And we started with 4 different working groups around manufacturing, aerospace, and defense, including natural resources, oil and gas, mining, but also alternatives and renewables, as well as infrastructure, scaling from smart buildings to smart cities. That's what those original 4 stars are. This is a member-driven organization. As we've grown from our original 55 members to over 200 today, which includes researchers, it includes the innovators, it includes the providers, it includes the end users, local government. This is really member-driven, and this growth from these 4 original working groups has been all because of the members that have been joining and saying this is an area we need to focus on, we want to bring together in terms of collective intelligence. So we have a horizontal working group looking at things like sustainability, looking at things like security, trustworthiness, resiliency, privacy, safety, functional safety. And we have cross-working group initiatives. You've heard and seen all around areas in terms of what does it look like from sustainability, that interoperability, and even how does that apply out and manifest itself in terms of the industrial metaverse. We have an open source collaboration community. We have members providing, we also have projects. We have a technical advisory committee to review these projects so that now we can bring in from the outside, you can actually go to our website and submit a project, and that'll be reviewed and brought forward. We also have a technology showcase. I was talking about not just accelerating the adoption, but also demonstrating that value through real-world applications. We now have 5 of these out there, and these are significant and substantive. Buildings as batteries, being able to use alternative resources to generate the energy for being able to do load balancing, active management of the digital twin. Also looking at it from a standpoint of high-speed industrial automation, using virtual reality to control a cobot and those different applications. Another one that was just featured at Barcelona IoT Solution World Congress was showing that and demonstrating that using virtual reality to be able to control that cobot, and this is over 5G. But really what we're here about today is to talk about the strength that we're recognizing by combining and working and developing this liaison with the OPC Foundation. You can see many different consortia that you saw from the liaison. We're bringing these together. And the carbon reporting, we've been working together with some of our members, aligned with CESMII, aligned with Industrial Digital Twin Association, aligned with OPC Foundation. We're talking about the harmonization. You heard Jeff talking about that in his presentation. So the harmonization across these different areas, the secure and being able to have that timely determination for being able to, for these timely communications between these systems. And to enable the proliferation across and leverage digital twins throughout these different areas, these applications, and tie them in with what the great work that's coming out of CESMII and OPC Foundation. And you've already seen about the carbon reporter demonstrator, so one of our members actually has been supporting that as well, and we'll be talking about that further. You'll actually see that released as one of our use cases as part of our technology showcase, which is a reference library of use cases and case studies, demonstrating the value of the digital twin at the different phases of its life cycle. So now this is just a sneak preview, as Michael was showing a little bit too. First results of this are actually already available on our open source collaboration community. I encourage you, if you haven't gone to the Digital Twin Consortium site, if you haven't seen it, take a look at all the different activities that are going on. I think you'll be really surprised at the breadth, the depth, the level of expertise and experience that our members, our relationships through our liaisons, as well as through the different regions that we represent. So it really does take a village. You've been hearing about this over and over, about this ecosystem. We continue to develop and grow that ecosystem out. And we're really excited about going forward into the future. We have major oil and gas companies that are joining. We have 4 airports already. We have end users across the board, as well as a very strong academia and research working group that is building out across the globe, honestly, through this collaboration. And that's what this is all about. It's about bringing the collective intelligence together to collaborate and develop and build these out.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're very grateful that you've stuck it out with us today. This is the last session of Wednesday, and it's been our privilege to be able to share that information with you today. We've got a few minutes before we dismiss. We've got an opportunity for Q&A. We've got our experts still in the room here. I'll moderate. If you guys have any questions, we'd be delighted to hear them. This gentleman over here has a roving microphone, so if you have a question, please put your hand up so that it's actually recorded. We'd like to hear your question on the tape. So, any questions from the audience, please?
Yeah, that's what I believe.
Yep, Mr. Bartusiak in the corner there, just at the back. Thanks.
It's not a question, it's really a comment. So Dan, I'm really pleased to hear your definition of digital twin that requires calibration to the asset that you're modeled. There's been such confusion and uncertainty on this point, and to hear you state that so definitively, because that's the only way these things are going to be of any useful value. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Any other questions? Something I wanted to share with each of you, and that is that the demo unit that we have in the hallway here, you've seen several references to it during our presentations today. That demo unit has to be stricken very soon, so we've got a few more minutes before it has to be taken down. If you've got any questions about that or you want to visit that before we have to crate that up, that would be our privilege to have you come out and share a few minutes with us there. Stefan, did you have any closing remarks that you'd like to share before we call it?
I just like to thank everybody for his time being here, and you have really the unique opportunity to ask any deepest question, because also the CTO of the OPC Foundation, Jim Lutz, is here with us. So take this opportunity, right? Right. Okay. Other than that, thank you, Mike, for preparation here, and enjoy the demo and enjoy the later evening, right? Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you.